Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition. It's March 9th, 2021, and I'm joined by the owner of Ortus Solutions, Luis Mahano.
Hola, ¿cómo estás, señor Gavin?
Cool. Good to have you. See, you're rocking the little ninja hat going on there, too?
I am. This is the Ortus Ninja hat, so it inspires me.
Cool. So,
first
we want to just thank Ortus Solutions. Obviously without them we can't make this podcast happen. So we appreciate all the support you guys give us. One way the listeners can say thanks to Ortus Solutions is by going to YouTube and liking and subscribing to these videos we release every week on YouTube. Hopefully some of you are watching live. You guys can do that too. And then another way you can thank Ortus Solutions is by supporting CFCasts, which has free content every week, some paid and some free. But we're releasing that content, and the subscription service is really affordable. And then there's another way they can support Ortus now. They can buy Ortus's new book, which we'll be talking a little bit more about today. The 102 ColdBox HMVC Quick Tips and Tricks on Gumroad. So you guys can actually purchase that now available. But I'll tell you a little bit about that soon as well. And then the other supporter, obviously, behind this podcast is our Patreon supporters. We've got 34 amazing people supporting us now, and they're providing 73% of the funding for this podcast. So we're sneaking up there. One day it's going to be up to 100%, and we'll be able to put the additional funds into all the other open source stuff that Ortus does. So thank you, everybody. Yeah, it's really cool. Okay, so first up in our news and events, we released a blog post this last week with 2021 plus ForgeBox pricing and also a roadmap in there too. You want to tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, definitely very excited about this blog post. We talk about the new pricing initiatives that we wanted to bring about. I think one of the things that we started seeing is how we can make this really, really affordable where people it's a no-brainer, right? And so we lowered the pricing quite considerably for everything. Our pro plans are only $4. Really, really cheap for people to actually get storage, first class kind of distribution of your binaries. And I think apart from the pricing is that I think we wanted to tell the story, right, of why, as ColdFusion developers, we want to use modern techniques to actually assemble or software, and how to deliver our software. So we kind of created and went in depth in explaining what a ForgeBox consumer is, right? Which is basically any command box installation can install two types of packages, right? Public packages, which are free and open source, and then private packages, which are obviously private, right? You need an API key, a special designation, so you can actually get access to that binary. And we kind of showcase a little bit of our infrastructure where we host your binaries securely in S3. We actually have replicating buckets in 2 regions in the US and also in the EU. And then we have a global delivery network for those binaries, depending on where you actually want to install those binaries. So if you're in Europe, we're delivering from the European buckets. If you are in the US, we're delivering from the US buckets, et cetera. So it's kind of that giving you access to that infrastructure, even for open source stuff, to make it fast and make it deliverable. And then we kind of go into the differences of, okay, why is ForgeBox different, right? And then we kind of explain of, you have the granular control over your packages, the geo-distributed redundant storage, the CDN network that we provide for you, right? And the semantic versioning. I think that's a big one, right? If you're using Git repositories that are private or HTTPS that are private, you don't get the full benefit because you cannot work with semantic version releases at that point, right? We actually have to download those full binaries or do complete Git clones, which are not fast, right? You know this, right, Gavin? Dealing with multiple things that are pseudo-private in a Git repository. I mean, it basically slows down your builds. And not only that, it's also vulnerability points, because now you have SSH keys that are floating around to give people access to your source code, when in reality, you don't want to give people access to your source code, right? You want to give them access to the actual final end product. Right? And so I think that having that tier is really, really, really important. So we go in depth in all that and explain it. And then for publishers, how you can actually publish into ForgeBox, how you can actually work with collaborators on these packages. And then we go into the full roadmap. So of course, our commitment to open source and what we're working on right now. And we're working on several different things right now. We're working on organizations and teams. This is something that actually internally we're going to have a show and tell for you guys probably next week. And it's gone a long way, complete new UI and revamp for organizations, but also for normal pro accounts. We have great new stats and great new visibility points into your packages. We actually finished a meeting today with Mr. Security himself, Pete Freitag. So we're going to be bringing security audits, and actually we're talking about even badges for passing security audits. So if a package actually passes a security audit, we're going to present a badge at the ForgeBox level. Also, talking with Brad, how at the command box level after installations or pre-installations, we can actually give warnings to people about security risks or security audits that have found some type of issue. So we're focusing a lot on security. We're focusing a lot on organizations and multiple businesses that have multiple users, right? And code quality, right? We also talked about how to doing static code analysis for packages, so they can actually get a report, right, of what if there's issues in your source code, right? We're also, after this, our big push is going to be e-commerce. So we've been wanting to do this for a long time, and we're ready for it. And we're going to provide it a US marketplace to start, and then we'll figure out what part of a region in the EU we're going to do next. But US marketplace, we have it targeted for this year. So developers, any developer, if they want to charge 5 cents, 9 cents, whatever they want for a specific package, right, we'll take care of that, right? We'll provide the purchasing, we'll provide the automatic provisioning and licensing of those packages through command box, right? And that way, any developer can monetize any of their packages or applications or projects through ForgeBox.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I saw the blog post and thought, oh, I'll check out the pricing and just make sure it's what I remembered. And then I looked through, I really like the little diagrams, and those watching at home can see that I shared the video for that as well. But yeah, the roadmap and everything too. So yeah, lots of good information in that blog post, and lots of cool stuff coming to ForgeBox. But as Dan Card just said in here, he's like, once he was lost in a morass of folders, of backups of folders and final version folders, and then he finally discovered packages in ForgeBox, and his life was changed. So
I think we're gonna have to use that quote.
Yeah, we might have to, Dan. But yeah, there's a lot of usefulness. It's one of those things that you don't know what you're missing until you try it. And like command box, like we never, like command box sounded cool and everything else, but now I can't imagine my life without it. And same with ForgeBox, like managing, just jQuery sometimes when you don't have a build process and you're like, wait, which version do I have here? And got a copy, like the old school managing packages was such a nightmare. And so ForgeBox is really good, and having all those private features now is really, really awesome. So
yeah, definitely. And remember, there's the source, or free you want to push it there. And if you, even like you mentioned, jQuery and stuff like that, you can still create packages surrounding that. ForgeBox is really language agnostic. It doesn't matter, right? As long as it has a box.json, it'll install it. So you can put full applications as storages, and you can treat them as images, right? You can treat final versions of your apps into ForgeBox, and then you treat it as like your CI image registry, right? So you have that potential to leverage it that way if you wanted to.
Yep, for sure. I know you've been busy with that, but you've also been busy with Content Box 5. So where are we at with that? I know you're getting pretty close to a big release here. You want to tell us a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll try to see if I can put a link here to the direct download for it. But so we've been working on Content Box, the next iteration, for quite some time now. And we're finally ready. We've always been saying, hey, it's ready for release, but then we find more regressions and we're like, okay, we're not ready. So at this point, we have one regression left. that we need to fix. But this, I would say, is one of the biggest architectural changes we've ever done for ContentBox. Every single file has probably been changed or updated and optimized. I think that's a big thing. And so the major thing, or the major feature, I would say, is multi-site. So this is something that has been requested for quite some time, as you know, and we always were very hesitant of it until we finally, saw that there was an opportunity for it. And that in itself is a big feature. Everything has to be automated for that, and we finally finalized all that. And now you're going to have the ability to have multi-site management with ContentBox. We have different ways to discover sites. We're going API first as well. So we have lots of ways to discover, even when you're dealing with the API for multi-site. We also, when you do a new install of ContentBox, we actually create 2 sites for you. We create a production and a development environment. So you can actually now have multiple environments in the same ContentBox. And we've created tools within the publishing and the editing UI where you can actually, for example, publish to any site. So you can work on the local development one, and once you're ready, you can actually move it and publish it on the other site, right? You can actually clone one or hierarchies from one site to the other, right? So we wanted to make sure that you have that capability, that only on one box you could even have your development environment as well. So that's one of the biggest features of it. The other thing that we've been working on for ContentBox is Postgres support. A lot of people have been asked for Postgres support, and now I am happy to finally say that now all my tests are running on Postgres. We're actually going to automate it now. So we have several scripts that we're working on with Abilio where the entire CI process is going to test against MySQL, Postgres, and Microsoft SQL and Oracle. So very cool. It's going to be all fully automated now, and it's such a big help as to have these automations than we weren't before. And the other one, Gavin, that I've been silently working on is performance, and that is was a big one, especially for ORM applications. And we've refactored tons of things just to gain performance edges on several areas, even ColdBox. And I can in testing, so in integration testing, I can actually do full integration testing in under 2 seconds. So that loads up the entire CMS, everything in under 2 seconds in Lucy, and about 3.5 seconds in the latest Adobe release. I mean, the entire framework and the entire CMS, everything actually loads in about 1.8 seconds. So that's after compilation. So after everything compiled by the engine, then everything loads in 1.8 seconds. So our performance is just crazy good now, thanks to FusionReactor, so one of our biggest helpers as well. We basically have analyzed every single line of code to squeeze everything out of it. So this CMS now is lighter than ever, and it's just incredibly faster and flexible.
Very cool. So you said you're trying to get the next release candidate out here shortly?
So I am working on that regression for today. It's basically about the commenting system for multi-site. That's the only thing that we've identified that is not working completely right now. So if I can get that resolved today, that release is cut. So that's it. This is the last ticket. Then we start working on documentation. So stay tuned. I mean, for that site that I mentioned, and if you see something less than 17 hours ago, you're probably going to get the beta version. So this will be our official beta. We're calling it beta.
Okay, official beta coming very soon. Cool. And then, so we had a couple of questions in the chat. So David Ward was saying he was looking at the ForgeBox plan. He's not entirely sure what a private package is. Would it be, would it be like internal packages? Is that how you would describe internal?
Yeah. So consider this, David. Anything that you publish in ForgeBox, if you just make it public, right, which is the default, everybody in the world can download and install that binary. If you make it private, right, if you actually go in your box.json and basically designate that package as private, then that package is only going to be available to you. That's it, with your unique API key. Okay, nobody else can install it, visualize it, search it, nothing. Okay, it doesn't exist for anybody except you. Now, you have the potential to actually add collaborators to your package. So you can say, okay, I trust Gavin. I want Gavin to be able to install this package, because you also have granular control. You can say, I want Gavin to only install, but then I want to give Luis the ability to install and also publish versions with me, right? So then you're getting into the concept of collaborators for those private packages, right? And if you're logged into ForgeBox, you can actually search for private packages that are yours, right? You have a special UI designated for that. And it's completely separate, right? You can, if you have a CI process or you want to deploy this to a server, if you use your API key, then you're up and running with that private package.
Yeah, I knew you'd say it better than I would, but Dan Card did also answer that basically, yeah, public show up in ForgeBox, private, they need authentication, don't show up in the search. And so that's a perfect example.
Actually, in the next version, where I didn't mention that on our roadmap, but we finished that UI already with Javier, which is multiple API keys. So you're going to be able to register not only one API key, but multiple API keys, tag them with specific names. And also you can address them as whether it's read or read write. So you can now, Gavin, create a specific API key just for CI processes that use it. So you don't even have to give it write permissions to that specific API key. So you're now going to have that capability as well.
Very cool. Yeah, it's really nice to see, you know, our tools evolving over time. Obviously, as we use them more, we have more use cases, and we're finally getting to build all the things we want to do, right? So,
yeah, definitely.
It's getting better all the time. Cool. Well, Ortus webinar for March has been announced, and so a lot of people have been asking about Vue.js lately in the Box team Slack, and we have Vue.js in my ColdBox app. So Esmeralda Acevedo is going to be doing a webinar, and she's going to be talking about how to integrate Vue into a simple ColdBox app, which ultimately demonstrate the fundamentals of Vue.js. So if you're using ColdBox or not, but this example will show a ColdBox app, but getting started with Vue.js. So if you're thinking about maybe adding some Vue into your app, sounds like a good session. And Esme works in Vue a lot. She's a little shy, so she doesn't present all the time at our conferences, but she always does a great job when she does, so I'm looking forward to this one. It'll be a really good webinar. That'll be Friday, March 26th at 11 a.m. Central Time. So you guys can go and look at ortusolutions.com/event/webinars, and you can register for that one right now. Someone just asked if support for Vue 3. I'm not sure if she's doing Vue 2 or Vue 3, to be honest. We'll have to find out and try and let you guys know. Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be on Vue 2, but maybe the question was if we support Vue 3. Oh. And I think for us, it doesn't really matter. Right?
Yeah. So, but I'm curious too, because I haven't done as much with Vue 3. I haven't migrated all my apps yet, so I'll see if she is doing Vue 2 or Vue 3. And if I remember, I'll let you guys know next time I remind you about that. We also have an Online CF Meetup coming up here soon. With an Online CF Meetup with Charlie Earhart, and the session is going to be by David Byers, doing a ColdFusion 101, intro for beginners, devs, decision makers, and CEOs. So probably everyone listening here has probably got a good understanding of ColdFusion and everything, but this session might be for some of those people that you know that needs to know a little bit more about it. So maybe you've got Manager or something else. And so basically this is an intro session. It's basically targeted towards new developers or business owners who have little to no knowledge on ColdFusion. So that one is going to be available on meetup.com, and I'm sharing the link in the show notes right now.
Actually, I don't think Vue.js 3 has been released.
It hasn't?
No, I don't. The latest stable I see in GitHub is 2.6.11.
Oh, well, so many people have been talking about it and doing videos about it. I just assumed it was stable.
No, not from what I can see.
Interesting.
On GitHub.
Well, the next webinar we have. Oh, interesting. So we also have another webinar coming up here on March 25th by the FusionReactor team. As we said, we love FusionReactor. It really helps to problem solve, but also to optimize, like you said, and really gain that performance too. So their session is going to be, what are the 5 things you should always check before you release your application? And so Mikey from the team is going to be doing that webinar, and I'm putting the link up right now so you guys can see the blog post. Anyone in the chat can click that or check it out in the show notes. But March 25th at 9:30 Pacific. Okay, so next up, we've been talking about this a little bit on and off over the last few weeks, but your new book, 102 ColdBox HMVC Quick Tips and Tricks, is now available for purchase. So it's up on Gumroad, and I know you guys put a lot of time and effort into this, so it's finally ready for everyone to consume, huh?
Woohoo! Here, we'll put the link.
Yep. So it's definitely a good system. I mean, the good thing is too is inside that book, it's not just ColdBox. You know, it's ColdBox related things too. So I know there's stuff on CacheBox and LogBox and a lot of the other ColdBoxes, right, Luis? So TestBox and everything.
Yeah, so this is the direct site to actually purchase the product right now, but we are working on an update to the Ortus site. We're working on a new book section that looks really fantastic, and every book is going to have a nice landing page, and you're going to be able to see all the tips there. So we've actually made it where you can actually see all the 102 tips, so you can get a grasp, an idea of what is included in the book. There's also free 10 tips. So you can actually just register and we'll send you 10 tips for free. That's going to be coming soon. And this week, we actually did a merge request this morning. So hopefully either by the end of the day today or tomorrow, we can publish that as well, maybe in the show notes, Gavin. But yeah, definitely I wanted to take a look at it from a perspective of developing in the ColdBox HMVC application, which you touch many of the other boxes. So I talk about command box, lots of tips and tricks for command box at the CI level, many with test box and testing and mocking. We also go in depth in some wirebox specific things for object mapping and domain modeling, and logbox as well for different types of logging mechanisms, and cachebox, ability for you to actually do different types of caching from your application. So those would apply even if you're not using ColdBox. You can apply them as standalone applications. I also do several tips on the new async manager and asynchronous processing. So that is also going to be helpful for folks that want to get into asynchronous programming and parallel programming.
Yeah, I really like the style too, more of a cookbooky style. You know, obviously the tips are obviously going to be great, but I like it when, you know, reading documentation, sometimes it doesn't come across quite the same way, you know, so having something like this, which is compiled down, it's just much better for consumption. So very cool.
Definitely. And my intent is also to have the CFCast series for it. So we're gonna hopefully have 102 videos, right? So you can actually see me code those 102 tips as well, and that will be hopefully available in a couple months. But as we start recording them,
That's very cool. Yeah, I didn't know about the video series. See, even I learn on the CFML News podcast. Cool. Well, just a reminder too that we have started our Ortus community website. So if you guys are looking for help or whatnot, Slack is still available through the Box Team Slack channel. But the Ortus community is a thriving new site, and so I just want to remind you that it's available. And I'll quickly share my screen for those who are watching. But yeah, it's seen some good pickup, and we've migrated all the Google groups in here. And you can see 8,579 topics right now. It's kind of crazy. So, but you'll see like some pretty good recent latest posts in here as well. A lot of faces that you might recognize, some new ones that you don't. But everyone who is in the Google groups have been imported over and everything. So a lot of good content. So that's community.ortussolutions.com. So just a reminder that it's new and out there. And if you go to the Google groups, they make you look a little dead. Jump over to the new ones. Okay, so next up we have a little update on CFCasts, and this week we had some new content in the Command Box Zero to Hero workshop. So we had 2 videos on task runners. Brad talked so long about task runners we had to break it up. So we have task runners part 1 and task runners part 2. And to be honest, he could probably do a whole workshop on task runners alone, and I think he has in the past.
So he's doing some funky stuff with task runners. So we need to talk to him to do more content there.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like we're rebuilding half our build processes just to use task runners now. I mean, we're not using traditional build processes at all. We're using task runners everywhere. It's really cool, and Command Box gives you a lot of cool features that built right into it that make task runners and CLI output super easy. So And then, of course, we have more CommandBox Zero to Hero videos coming up, and we usually release on Wednesday. So if you want new content, check it out tomorrow, and we'll tell you a little bit more about it next week. And that is CFCasts.com. And don't forget, if you've got Will just posted, Brad could do a whole workshop just on the bullet train. That's for sure. He sure could. Brad can talk about anything for at least a day, as long as you provide him snacks to keep him going.
Yeah, I think Bill is nice with the bullet train.
Too funny. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about conferences and training. So the next conference coming up is our VueConf conference, and that's going to be online, free, and virtual. There was swag for the first 500 registrations, but I missed out. I registered really quickly, but I didn't know there was a link you had to go click to go claim your swag, so I missed out by the time I finally read the email. So no swag for Gavin.
Missed on the Vue swag, then?
Yeah, it's pretty sad, but it's okay. They're going to have a day full of content. They're going to have live video and chat, QA with speakers. They're going to have attendee lightning talks, a live DJ, Luis, and a virtual party. So we talked about doing a virtual happy box. So
party,
they have a DJ as well, which is pretty neat. So we might have to step up our game. Have to,
I know, man. I know.
We'll attend and get some ideas for Into the Box later in this year. So if you want to register for that, it's vueconf.us, and as I mentioned, it's free, April 14th. So it's coming up pretty quick here, about a month away.
Very quick, yes.
And then RedisConf 2021, that's another virtual conference. It's going to be a 2-day conference in April 20th and 21st. They haven't released a lot of details on it yet, but if you go to redislabs.com/RedisConf, you can find out a little bit more about it. I know that the call for speakers ended about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I haven't seen the session list, but have they got it yet? Nope, it's not quite. Yeah, not quite.
Registered, but I don't see it.
Yeah, and they say if you register, obviously they'll send you updates as they go. And then the next one up, we have DockerCon, May 27th, and that's going to be free and online as well. And you can register right now at docker.com/DockerCon. So fill that out. And they have some sponsorship availabilities, everything as well. And they usually do workshops. I'm not sure if they're doing workshops. I know that VueConf is going to be doing workshops, online workshops.
Yeah.
So we'll find out more about
I think you have
DockerCon.
to pay for those, though, right?
Yeah.
I think the workshops you pay for.
Yeah, exactly. But so DockerCon is coming up in May. And then after that, we'll be having Into the Box in September, and I think that call for speakers is coming out pretty soon, right?
Yeah, so I think probably April, May, or something like that, we'll start doing our call for speakers. Soon here. Yeah.
Yep.
Checking my notes here. But yeah, so unfortunately, we're going to have to do it virtual. I think that we don't want to venture out and bring everybody in, even though people could be halfway vaccinated, but we'll just have to wait another year.
Yep. So that will be September 2021. And then we have Into the Box LATAM still scheduled for December. So we'll tell you more about that as we get that planned out as well.
Yep.
But we have some Ortus workshops as well. And this week, March 11th and 12th, if you haven't signed up already, sign up right now. It's filling up pretty quick, actually, because the workshop is on quick. So Eric Peterson's going to be doing that workshop. And Quick is a pretty awesome ORM that Eric built, and the Ortus team has helped make into a really nice product. And I'm using it on several projects now, and I love it. I know that ContentBox is still running on Hibernate, but I really can't wait till we re-architect that to run on Quick one day. But so that workshop is available. There's a registration link on Eventbrite, or if you go to ortussolutions.com, there's actually the workshop details there as well. So I'm sharing that in the chat for anyone who hasn't registered. Get that information registered as soon as possible. I know that we got a few of the Ortus people that haven't used Quick in projects attending that workshop as well. So it's going to be great. Okay, we also have a couple more workshops coming up soon. CommandBox Zero to Hero, ColdBox Zero to Hero, and ColdBox Hero to Superhero. We'll let you know as soon as we have dates for that. So I know we're just trying to plan them around everybody's schedule. and trying to figure out how to avoid summertime, because that's always a bad time for workshops.
That's true.
Okay, so let's get into blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So we have a couple more blogs from Ben Adele in his very, very long series on using ColdFusion custom tags to create an HTML email DSL in Lucy. And so he released episode blog 12 and 13 this week. So the first one is dealing with a little more about margins, formalizing margins on block level entities. And then the next one, number 13, was dealing with font weights. And I guess in a lot of email providers, they don't do too much font weights. You sort of got 400 and 700 font weights for bolds. But anything less than 600, they don't even show as bold. And so, long story short, if you're doing emails, check out Ben's series. He really dives into a lot of detail on all of that stuff. And the too long didn't read it's really, really difficult, so don't do it unless you have to, because everything is so hard with that. And there's a few tools out there that are making life easy. And yeah, he mentions Litmus, and I think he even dived into a couple other tools, and we're using one of them on CFCasts as well to make our life easier there. So, but yeah, so 2 more emails on that series. We won't go too into it because if you want to dive into it, he's got 13 blog posts to read about it. But one of the ones he did do, though, was killing slow MySQL queries in an emergency in Lucy. And so this one was pretty neat. So basically, they switched over to AWS. And when they did so, they upgraded the MySQL versions. But what they found was if you have an in ID list clause, some of their users have 40,000 projects, and so when they did some queries and the ID in had 40,000 entries, it could pretty much kill their machine. So one thing I found really interesting, I'm not sure if you've run into this or not, Luis, but he basically started killing queries manually, but before he did that, he added a timeout to a CF query. But for some reason, in Lucy, that didn't actually kill the queries. They just kept running, even though it worked in Adobe ColdFusion. So I don't know if that's something that it's a bug, or because the timeouts weren't working in Lucy.
I mean, Brad knows a lot more of this than me. He dived into the whole, JDBC pool handling that Lucy does. But I know that there's several issues, and I know there's several kind of experimental features on it to actually be able to actually kill those threads, because I know that there were several issues with this JDBC connection pool in Lucy. So we're probably going to have to defer to Brad to talk about it in the next session. Okay. But yeah, I've seen it where even if you put a timeout, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so just something to be aware of. If you guys are using timeouts and think that they're working, they may not be in Lucy, and just you want to, as usual, use FusionReactor or something like that to really check it. So in this blog post, he uses a process list gateway CFC that actually gives them access to the MySQL process list. And so he sort of walks through this and finds out more about it, it's a pretty neat blog post. The next one in the series, which we'll show you here in a second, he actually goes about trying to solve it and fix it. And I really like those types of, blog posts where they had a problem, they look at possible solutions, then they actually do something and fix it, right? And as he mentioned, though, it's not the perfect fix, it's not the perfect solution, but with most engineering decisions, you got to figure out, okay, how much time should we devote into making this more performant? And so this one here, he worked with another engineer and tried to basically take this little bottleneck that you can see in the picture for those watching at 100% for hours, and how to get it more performant. He says it obviously was hard to debug, because it was only a few users that had those lists of IDs that were huge, but actually caused the problem. But he talked about how he tried to change it, and how he sort of manipulated his code to sort of take his scenario from a catastrophic one to a poor user experience for those bad users. And so he uses feature flags, and it's a really good blog post walking through that. So I'll let you guys dive into that deeper on your own, but I really enjoyed it, and he did definitely make a big difference. And on Twitter, looks like a lot of people are interested in the results, so I really appreciate sharing that, Ben. And yeah, I like those war stories with a good ending. So, that's where you learn tips and tricks. But yeah, I mean, ID list. I mean, that's a pretty common thing too. Like, that's a common way to deal with
Yeah,
that thing, like
I'd be
permissions and stuff.
curious to see. I would be curious to see is like what is the reasoning behind going to the database all the time? Why not introduce also a caching layer where you don't have to be, retrieving all the projects with that huge ID list, but do it once and then put it into a nice cache where you can have it immediately, right?
Yeah, I mean, he
So
may have been doing that, but I know one of the queries was taking an hour. He got it down from like an hour down to 50 seconds. Just by making some changes. Obviously, that
yeah,
was for an extreme case, but yeah. So sometimes, sometimes you just gotta
40,000
reflect.
IDs long. That's pretty massive.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So yeah. We also mentioned that Ortus blog post on the ForgeBox pricing earlier, so we'll leave that be. But the next one up, we have a podcast from the Working Code podcast. So this is Ben Adele's podcast with Tim, Carol, and Adam. And so this week they're talking about idiomatic code. So this is kind of an interesting one because as a framework creator, we have the whole thing of like giving people flexibility versus giving people the right way to do things, And I know a lot of people love Rails, right? Because you just did it that way, and that was the way you did things, and people like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes we get, people don't like being told how to do things. But sometimes people want, a lot of times we get asked, how would you do this? And we're like, well, you can do this or this or this. And like, no, how would you do it? Like, they want us to tell them so they don't have to think about it, But other times people like to do things their way. And so, yeah, this podcast, they talk about that, and basically looking at the difference between the right way and maybe a better way, like the whole best practice, better practice thing. And, so yeah, so that's a pretty interesting one.
Yeah, that's a definitely interesting topic, especially, building frameworks, for more than 15 years now. You always get into this and sometimes, as you know me now, you have to make those decisions, right? And it's like, you know what, we'll just do the opinionated route for now, and then you see how it plays out. And then later, if people, complain too much, right, then you start offering some flexibility about it. But I think that especially with the us building all these tools, I think it's sometimes good to start opinionated, right? It's good to just have one pathway that you can actually support, see how it works, and then later on you start adding more flexibility and flexible endpoints to that software, so it can start adapting to multiple personalities. Kind of software becomes a personality as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's funny, like everyone wants their flexibility, and in ColdFusion we're used to doing it our own way because you can do it any way you want and it gets done. But as Ben said, that leads to a kind of beautiful chaos sometimes where the standards maybe get put aside, and yeah, so it's definitely an interesting conversation, and they're really talking about some pretty interesting stuff on this podcast. So they're diving into different things, and quite often Adam Tuttle reaches out and discusses things on Twitter too. I know Adam Cameron and Adam Tuttle were talking about this one the other day. Adam Cameron was giving his opinions on that. So yeah, but
Yeah. I saw and heard about the testing one, so
yeah,
I know I
but
have my opinion on
yeah,
that one.
and that's the thing. Adam's a big proponent of testing, and so it's very different to see all the different perspectives on that too. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
very biased. Obviously building a testing framework, right? I'm gonna be very biased.
Yep. I'm doing a new project right now where I'm doing all the setup, so doing all the test setup and everything, and so it's really fun. I actually like doing that.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think
just
one of the misconceptions about testing is that people feel that it's gonna take them more time, but it is a total lie. It is a lie. It's not. I mean, if you once you know the tools and you have the approach down, it actually makes you faster. I mean, that's how really we can produce so much stuff, because we have confidence that everything that we do actually works, right?
yeah.
And you only get that when you're doing things either with a behavior driven approach or a test driven approach. But I think that the whole thing about it's going to take me longer, for me, it's a complete lie. Right?
Yeah.
It's not. It never is. It's just you telling me that you don't know the tools,
Yeah.
right? And that's why you think that it's going to take you more time.
Yeah, when you're learning anything, it takes you more time. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like just whenever I build a function, I'm thinking about those edge cases as I go. If I sort of spec them out, a lot of times I'll make comments above it telling it what the edge cases are. Instead of doing that, I can make tests for those edge cases, and then I can actually make sure it works. And I can run my tests. And sometimes it's really hard to actually test your code in the browser, clicking around and getting those different, scenarios. But it's
Exactly. I mean, there's
easy in
multiple
TestBox.
scenarios for these things. There's to have to be in memory to be in place. All the and then the other problem is that how do you replicate that where so it's automated, right? Where
Yeah.
I don't have to do that manually, right? Every time I do a code change, I want things to go off and then inform me if this actually introduced a regression or introduced a bug. So, you will never get that if you don't have an automated test suite. It's just impossible, right? It's just impossible. And the amount of work and maintenance that occurs because you don't have that, you might not realize how big it is. But if you actually make numbers and you actually put the amount of time that you spend on regressions and actually solving these edge cases and if it appears again and testing manually, you will see that it is way out of proportion if you would have made the investment of automation.
Yeah. It's definitely a learning experience, and it takes time. But yeah, you definitely save in the long run. So. Okay, we also have a tweet here from James Moberg. And so this one here, he's talking about discover the hard way that get column names will return the same case if the query is created within ColdFusion, but SQL-based columns are returned all uppercase. So if you want mixed case for your query column names, you have an option to get the metadata get column labels with Adobe CF, or if you use column array with Lucy, you can get the case, the mixed case column names that you would like. So just a note there. So
Oh yeah, I've been definitely bitten by that one for sure, especially
yep.
with DataBoss when we're building, heavy, metadata driven applications. And in Adobe, you realize that you get all this. So yeah, I've been definitely bitten by that one.
Yep. Okay. So we also had a couple of comments. We'll check those out real quick. And so Charlie was talking about the query timeout issue that we mentioned. He says it's
Yeah.
not limited to Lucy. It can also happen with Adobe CF as well. That said, Adobe CF's drivers offer a timeout in the DSN that can help you if you need to override that query timeout, because sometimes the query timeout does not work. And then Zach said that breaking news, Lucy 6 will be using the Apache Commons data source pools, so that's a pretty big change there. I'm not sure all the benefits there. I think Brad mentioned before that they were moving to that, and he knows a lot more about that than I do, what the differences are.
Yeah, I mean, Lucy basically created their own connection pooling for data sources, right? There was nothing at the time when Misha created this. So in all reality, Misha's source for this was way advanced than anything out there at the time. But obviously things change, and instead of reinventing the wheel, they're using, a published and a known product that deals with data source pooling, and it's very flexible as well. I know it. And using that is just beneficial. Instead of maintaining your own source
Oh yeah,
for something that is very hard, just they're going to reuse it and then extend it.
yeah. There's no point in reinventing the wheel when someone else has spent a lot of time doing it. The beauty of open source, right?
Yes.
And then Charlie also said it's sometimes the only way to kill a query is to kill it in the database itself if CF hung on it. So just an adding into his other comment. And then Dan had another special quote for us there. If you don't have the time to do something, you certainly don't have time to do it twice. And that is so true, right? Everyone's like, I don't have time to test. It's like, well, then you're going to be spending twice as much time trying to fix that bug later. So, for sure.
Yes, totally agree with that.
Yep. Okay. So next up, we have some job opportunities. So if we check out getcfmljobs.com, which is the ColdFusion generated and powered site, we see one more developer remote position in the United States released on the 4th. You see quite a few job postings over the last month or two here. 53 since the start of the year, I believe. So quite a lot of job postings here. You can follow them on Twitter at getcfmljobs.com. Sorry, at getcfmljobs, and you'll see them pop up in your Twitter feed as well. So Let's see what this remote job is here. Looks like it's working for Cat Technologies. Eastern time is the preferable. It's a 3-month, could extend, so it's a short-term contract that they're looking for somebody with at least 4+ years of experience. So a pretty good, interesting mix of requirements there as well. So pretty good. Okay, so remember, if you have a job, you can also post it on getcfmljobs.com as well. There's a free posting there, so if you're looking for someone, you can do that too, and let us know as well, and we can throw it up here on the podcast. Okay, so next up we have our ForgeBox module of the week, and this one was just updated yesterday, and we have spotlighted this one before, but it's been a while, so we're going to talk about Quick 4.2.4. So basically, Quick is an object relational mapper written in CFML for CFML. It provides active record implementation for your database. It can also map database tables to components, create relationship between components, query, manipulate data, and persist all your changes to the database. And basically, it was built because of all the frustrations dealing with stuff like Hibernate. So I know we've used Hibernate a lot, but you, as probably the biggest user of Hibernate over the years, what do you think about Quick?
For me, it was important to have options, right? I think that, especially when it comes down to the ORM, we're at the mercy of what Adobe does and what Lucy does. So for us, it was very important to have our own kind of project as well that we could dictate a lot better than we can with Adobe basically and Lucy. And unfortunately, even if we try to wrap Hibernate in, we still wouldn't be able to do it, because then we would need to do the manipulations that they do at the source level, right? So the choice was to start from scratch using the abstraction layer that we have. So for us, it's important to support both, right? And they kind of feed off each other, obviously, as well. And I think Eric has done a fantastic job. It has gone through its paces now. There's a lot of production applications that we have now that use Quick. So I think it would be just like with frameworks, it's a matter of taste and choice of what you like and what approach you like the best. But it's definitely gotten a lot more mature than when we started this, and it's ready for prime time. It's been through its paces, and it's really good. It's really good. But
Yep.
Like I said, we'll definitely support both approaches for sure.
Yep, and then you can see here listed on the Getting Started page, there's support for Oracle Grammar, MS SQL, Postgres, and MySQL. So I know a lot of the community members that have jumped on early with Quick. I know Sam Knowlton's done a lot of work with it, and there's a lot of other people that I don't know their names of, and I apologize. But that have stepped up and help with a lot of debugging and really helping Eric fine-tune this. And there's a really active channel on the Box Team chat as well for Quick, and a lot of good questions and answers. And Eric is Johnny on the spot on that channel for sure. He's like Brad, you just say Quick and he's there.
He's there, like Beetlejuice.
Yep, exactly. And so it's really good. But yeah, it's nice that it's supporting like all of those different grammars, and it's really well architected, and it's really nice to work with. It is a little different, but once you get used to it, it's really nice, and I really definitely enjoy it. And the good thing is it's not that invasive. Like Hibernate, you need to do so much work to get them up and running with your system. And with Quick, you just add a couple little things to your normal object, and now it's a Quick object, and you get all those benefits without all the headaches. So, even if you're doing old school stuff, I think Quick could really be a big plus for you. And of course, we have that workshop this week. So the Quick workshop is going on this week as well, and it's pretty neat. So I'm hoping more people pick it up, and it's only going to get better and better. So.
Yeah, definitely. I see Will's question about Lucy doesn't take CFORM serious. So I agree. So I know that this is something that we have done. So we have actually sponsored the upgrade for Hibernate on Lucy. So they are working on this. We actually sponsored them in December. So we're probably going to have a new Hibernate extension for Lucy based on the latest Hibernate, which is 5.4. So we're just waiting for them to give us the go-ahead so we can actually run them through our paces and through the CBORM suites. But Hibernate 5.4 for Lucy should be on the horizon since we made that sponsorship to Lucy.
Oh, so maybe in Lucy 6 we'll see that? maybe.
Well, it's an extension, so it really doesn't matter.
Oh,
Right? I don't
good point.
think he had to change anything in the core. I will have to verify that with Misha, but as of now, all the work is contained within the extension itself.
I keep forgetting that. Yeah, with Lucy, the extensions, like you can download whichever version of the extension you need and plug it in. True plug and play,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So,
So yeah, we got to notice that they're almost in their final processes. So we sent another mail today just to make sure where we stand. But hopefully, either this month or next, we'll have that extension completed.
very cool. And that's one of the cool things about open source like that. We can sponsor an upgrade and get that in there. It's hard to do in some proprietary worlds for sure. So, very, very cool. So next up, we have our VS Code hints, tips, and tricks of the week. And this one I thought you might like, Luis. It's called Better Align. And so I'm going to share my screen here for those watching. But basically, it allows you to place your cursor in your code, anywhere in the code you want it to be aligned. And then you can basically run the align command via the command palette. And then it'll automatically align all the code in that block. So they have like the Oh, you do? Oh, okay, cool.
This extension, yeah.
Yeah, and so this one makes it really easy to format.
My pickiness on the formatting, yeah.
Yeah, because some people like formatting a certain way, and this makes it really easy, whether you do selections or just click anywhere in that block. Just a lot of times it's kind of annoying to have to grab each block and format it a certain way. But there's some nice shortcuts set up in there, and parameters and extension options, so you can figure out what type you want. So yeah, and actually I think James Moberg used this one. I think I picked it up from one of his tweets, and so that's pretty cool. Okay, so yeah, this one has got almost 225,000 installs. It's pretty well rated, but I'm definitely going to be adding this.
Yeah,
to
I
my
love that
collection.
extension. Really awesome extension.
Very cool. I like how some of these extensions are just tiny little things, but they just all add up to a better developer life, right?
For sure.
Okay. So we have a Charlie comment in here too. ORM fans should check out the great resources from Vlad Michalcia, blog, book, newsletter, courses with lots of great tips on Hibernate and more. And of course, Luis, you already know who he is, don't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love that guy. Yeah, he has great trainings, great, very straightforward stuff, right? On how to work with Hibernate and JPA. So yeah, there's tons of stuff that he does and stuff. So very, very good stuff.
Cool. Okay. So next up, we're at the end of our show where we like to thank our Patreon supporters. We want to thank our newest supporter, Jonathan Perret or Perret. Don't know if there's
Perret.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Perret. Yeah, he's a fellow Houstonian. So here in Houston, yes.
Very cool. So obviously they're supporting the podcast by being a Patreon supporter for Ortus Solutions, but they're also supporting other great tools that we create that are open source, like CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, ContentBox, TestBox, and a lot of the other open source projects we have, including the ForgeBox and package management, cloud infrastructure too. So, but we are stealing a good chunk of that for the podcast here because we're trying to keep this out, and we think it's important to be able to share this news for the community. And then, obviously, last time you were on the show, we talked about those awesome perks that we now have with being a Patreon supporter. So, Braun packages and up now get that ForgeBox Pro account and that CFCast subscription as a perk for their Patreon subscription. And on our community website, they also have that private forum access. So basically, all the Patreon supporters can have their own little private forum, get a little special attention for their patronage. And then we have the Patreon supporters have a profile badge on the community website too. So you get a little extra recognition for spending your hard-earned money to help the Ortus Solution open source and podcasts. So pretty cool. And if you want to find out more about that, go to patreon.com/ortussolutions and you can get information on all the different ways. I think we have a package starting at just $10 a month. So if you guys want to, give back, go ahead and do that. And I think the bronze packages are $50 a month up. But $50 you get CFCast subscription and a ForgeBox Pro subscription. So not only are you helping us out, but you also get a couple of cool subscriptions too. So very cool. Oh, Scott's given us the JMES path update that he's been doing. So he's got almost all of the tests passing. So Brad will have to be back next week, and we can talk about this awesome thing that Scott's been working on for Command Box. So,
cool.
Yep. Okay. Well, do we want to have you read the Patreons, Luis, and get a little flair for the names?
Sure. Let's go all Latino on them. Right? All right. So thank you to Mr. Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, David Paul Belanger, Gary Knight, Giancarlo Gomez, Mr. JC, Jonathan Perret, Mario Rodriguez, John Wilson, Yogesh Mathur, Joseph Lamery, Ben Nadal, Brett DeLa, Carl von Steffen, Charlie Earhart, Dan Card, Daniel Garcia, Didier Lesnicki, Edgar Cabezas, John Yannick, Jason Diger, Jeff McLean, Jeremy Adams, Jonas Eriksson, Jordan Clark, Kai Koenig, Laxmat Tirohadi, Leon Skremelis, Matthew Darby, Matthew Clemente, Mingo Hagen, Patrick Flynn, Ross Phillips, Scott Steinbach, and Stephen Plotz.
Awesome. So
I butchered all of them. Very nice.
But you did it very well. You had that little Latin flair. But yeah, so thanks everybody supporting us. Again, if you want to find out more about becoming a Patreon sponsor yourself, you can go to patreon.com/AutoSolutions, and then we have a link in our show notes, and I'll share it in the chat for more information on our sponsors, and you can see some of our commercial sponsors as well. So we really appreciate each and every one of you, and those who are also supporting us in other ways. Tickets, issues, comments, documentation, pull requests, it all helps. But going the extra mile with your hard-earned cash, you get a little extra thank you from us. So
yes, definitely. I want to thank Bill the Bruin, because he's been helping us with lots of modules, from CB validation to localization, so to ORM. So I just want to thank Bill publicly, because he's been doing an amazing job. I've dropped the ball several times because of my time issues, but I just want to thank Bill, because he's doing excellent. We're doing the CB validation update right now, and just want to thank him publicly.
Yeah, there's a lot of community members that really step up and do a lot, and we try and thank you all, but I know sometimes we forget, but don't worry, we're really appreciative, and yeah, we couldn't do it without you guys. So okay, well, thank you, Luis, for joining me today, and everyone watching and listening. And you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Gracias. All right. See you later, Gavin. Ciao.
Bye. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernize.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.